Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Ted Cruz absolutely schools this woke Face the Nation host when he tries to compare the Donald Trump witch hunt to Hunter Biden's cases. This is absolutely fantastic. This is what Ted Cruz does best. Let's dive in.
As you know, Senator, there isn't a vacancy at the top of the FBI. What should become of Christopher Wray, appointed by President Trump?
Well, I think he'll make a choice. I think either he will resign or President Trump will fire him. But it's no secret to anybody, including Chris Wray, that he is not going to continue to serve as the head of the FBI under Donald Trump. Listen, if you look at James Comey and Chris Wray, there has never been a period in our nation's history where the FBI has suffered a greater loss of respect, where more Americans doubt the fundamental integrity of the FBI. And it's because James Comey and Chris Wray presided over allowing the FBI to become a partisan cudgel, to be used to target parents at school board meetings, to be used to target people who chose not to take the COVID vaccine, to be used to target President Trump, and to target the political opponents of Joe Biden in the White House. It is tragic. That is not what the FBI is for. That is not what the DOJ is for. And I got to say, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, I think together are a very strong slate of nominees to go and restore integrity to both institutions.
How do you place that up against the prosecutions of Bob Menendez, a congressman, a Democrat from Texas, Hunter Biden? Are those political prosecutions as well or not?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. Bob Menendez was literally caught with gold bars and a stack of cash with his fingerprints taking bribes, and it's why Bob Menendez is not my colleague anymore. At that point, the evidence was overwhelming. Look, Major, I wrote an entire book entitled Justice Corrupted, How the Left Has Weaponized the Legal System, and it broke down. It started, sadly, under Barack Obama, where he began using the federal government to target his political opponents. The book details how many of those partisans then burrowed in to senior career positions during the Trump administration. They waged war against President Trump during his first term. And now under Joe Biden, they have been open and brazen. And I think it has done unbelievable damage to the integrity of the Department of Justice and the FBI. I think Merrick Garland will go down in history as the most partisan attorney general our nation has ever seen. And I got to say, I hear regularly from prosecutors, from FBI agents who are deeply dismayed about the institution they've devoted a lifetime working for. Because, listen, I don't want a Republican Department of Justice. I don't want a Democrat Department of Justice. I want a Department of Justice and an FBI that enforces the law regardless of party. And sadly, we haven't seen that these last 4 years.
Attaboy, Ted. Attaboy. I think Donald Trump now regrets calling you lying Ted Cruz, and I certainly regret that he did that because Ted Cruz, even though he's been very unpopular for a whole multitude of reasons, because of the way he views the Constitution, because of the way that he views the American governmental system, because of the way he loves our checks and balances, he's one of my favorite politicians right now. And again, he's done some unpopular things. I mean, leaving his home state, even though nothing about that whole kerfluffle with Texas losing its power grid was his fault. It's still kind of a slimy move. You need to stay behind and see where you can help out. And that's what good senators do from Florida, for instance, when there's a bad hurricane. Everyone typically does that to protect their state. And then, of course, there was the fact that he was just so unpopular when he first got to Congress. Lindsey Graham once said about him that if Ted Cruz if Ted Cruz was shot in the Senate, you would not get enough votes to convict the shooter. Which basically says Ted Cruz was a pain to deal with. And he's mellowed out a little bit. But I love the way that he brings forth cases. His constitutional mind, his law skill background makes him a very potent senator. And because he understands the checks and balances, because he understands our judicial system, because he understands what justice is supposed to look like, and what our Constitution actually says, that's something that's becoming a rarer and rarer theme nowadays, particularly in Congress. Because of this knowledge, he understands what Trump is actually trying to do. And that's why, even though Trump attacked him on a very personal level, even going after his wife back in 2015, Ted Cruz came around pretty quickly the moment he saw Donald Trump actually making deals, actually trying to keep our government from going absolutely haywire. And so what Ted Cruz is really outlining is this. The FBI for the past 15 years has been captured in a way. And what I mean by captured is, well, let me start off with the real breaking point. Back in late 2016, during the election, the FBI was split into two camps. There was the camp that cared about justice and cared about Hillary Clinton being one of the slimiest political lizards in American history. And then there was the team that looked at Donald Trump and said, this guy is nuts and he's going to strip us of our power. We've got to do something. And so they sort of came to an agreement. And that agreement was rather simple. We're going to investigate Hillary Clinton, but we're not going to recommend we do anything. That placated the side of justice because that at least felt right to them. And it also meant that if Donald Trump wins, the other side can still go after him tooth and nail. And that's exactly what happened. Now is the time to take another good look at the FBI and start not just trimming the fat, but starting to take an actual chainsaw or at least perform some liposuction, okay? I like the chainsaw method a little bit better, but that's probably best reserved for the torturing of the CIA. So, what's really going on under the new Trump administration is that we have individuals that are going to be much more loyal to Trump in the past. Now, that still rubs me the wrong way because political loyalty is a very easy way to fall into a major problem of which that you can't really claw your way out of. However, that's going to be necessary when you also are incredibly competent and you have a vision that aligns with Donald Trump. It's a three-legged stool policy, and if you take away one of those legs, that stool ain't going to work too well. So, he's getting competent people into the Attorney General's office. I'm really excited what Pam Bondi's going to do. Matt Gaetz would have been a bigger wrecking ball, but there is some 5D chess going on there. Let's put it that way. And then when it comes to Kash Patel, he is going to take not just a scalpel, he's going to take a mark around the skin where he's going to do his incisions, and he's going to trim that fat down to the bone. I can't wait to see it. After what Merrick Garland did, because remember, and I've outlined this before, Democrats love top-down government. All right, they love bureaucrats running your life. They love telling those bureaucrats what to do. Republicans are watchmakers, okay? So Democrats think of themselves as very hands-on CEOs, whereas Republicans see themselves as watchmakers. They build the watch, and occasionally they'll tweak a hinge or two to make sure that everything's twitching and clicking on time. Whereas the Democrats, they're going to glue themselves to the watch for an hour at a time to make sure every little piece is working properly, and they're going to find problems that aren't actually there and perhaps make everything worse. This is why I often say the Democrats can't govern, because their fundamental philosophy is off. Ted Cruz definitely does not have the Democrat philosophy. He has the Republican philosophy. The whole idea behind our Constitution was to set this watch and just let it run. That's what Republicans 99% of the time do with their power. That's what's going to happen again, except this time we're removing the gears that don't make any sense, that are making the watch run late, that's making the watch that makes the watch tick at the wrong time. There are going to be some changes going on here, and you're going to see something far more streamlined. That's what Ted Cruz is talking about. And I need to end with one of the major problems going on. The mainstream media. What happens on, what was this channel again? Face the Nation. So these hosts on these mainstream media outlets have one new job. Let Republicans talk, but make sure that you'll hold the Republicans' feet to the fire at least a little bit. So in order to achieve that balance, they brought up Senator Menendez, who was quite literally, as Ted Cruz said, caught with his fingerprints on gold bars. And quite literally, for lack of a better turn of phrase here, this New Jersey senator had his fingers tied in with waste management. And if you know The Sopranos, you know what I'm talking about. Again, Democrats can't govern. ultimately, that's a huge problem that we keep on seeing time and time again in our government of corruption of either the highest order with Bob Menendez, or at a slightly lower order where Hunter Biden is funneling money back to his father from companies across the globe who has now been pardoned for that. Funny how that works. And then you have some lower level people that just kind of let it happen. Like, people who just look the other way, that Nancy Pelosi's salary is only a couple $100,000 and she's worth like 90 million. All right, she's approaching those triple digits. So remember, if you have stocks, make sure you follow Nancy Pelosi's account very closely. That's the kind of corruption that's going to be rooted out. That's the kind of scalpel that needs to be taken to the FBI. And that's the kind of precision that we need to start looking at this watch that got set up by our great founders at the beginning of our nation. When we wrote that Constitution, we need leadership that makes sure that our government is not abusing our rights while working within the frameworks as set down in our founding document. And Ted Cruz understands this, I think, better than anyone. And that's why I'm still a huge fan of his. I love what he has to say here. And I'm glad that the mainstream media is finally just forced to understand these principles and bring them to light, that maybe, just maybe, some rich white liberal will one day see the light. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.